This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Buzz. Very excited to be speaking with Ashley Walters about Adolescence. How are you today?
I'm very good, my friend. I'm very good. Would have preferred to be in a better setting, but it is what it is. I'm in the edit at the moment for a film that I directed recently, so I'm just stepped out of the office, so to speak.
All right, well, I'd love to hear about that a little later. I'm excited about what's coming next for you. But I'm curious if you knew that this show was going to take off and just become quite as popular as it has.
Oh no, not at all. I don't think I've gone into any project kind of knowing what sort of life it will have after it comes out. But I say one thing for sure: we definitely knew that it was going to be powerful. It's such a local show. Set in like a really small place in England, and you don't know whether that's going to translate to the rest of the world. But obviously, like the theme running through the show was so important to globally, to parents, I guess. There's many parents around the world that are kind of struggling with the same thing with their children, i.e., the internet, the pros and cons of the internet. And I feel like this kind of allowed that conversation to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to the purpose, to what you're saying about, locality, et cetera, I do think your role is something that law enforcement works differently in different places. And I'm curious how much you think your character and just law enforcement in general in this show is very specific to that area.
I guess yeah, it's quite specific. I feel like I mean, if you want to compare it to the US and what I know, I guess we're slightly more laid back here. We don't carry firearms like the police, so the level of policing and how we police is slightly different. But there's crime everywhere around the world, and I guess my character is he's just he's dedicated to his job. But I think what makes him so special in this moment with this particular crime is that he's a dad, and he has a son of his own that he doesn't quite understand and doesn't quite connect with, and realizes at some point that this could have easily been his own child. They go to the same school, they got the same friend circle. So I think that's what makes him like a dog, a dog looking for a bone. Like he really wants to crack the case, and understand why, as well as get justice for the victim as well.
There's almost a moment of levity, I think, when you get to see him at the school and interacting with his own child. But it's still, I guess, it is, in the back of the mind, the idea that this could be so pervasive that, he wouldn't want that for his own child.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like it did what it did for the character. It did the same thing for me actually as a parent with my own kids, because I think what Bascom realizes throughout the process is the lack of quality time that he's spending with his son, and that is probably the most important thing that you can give to your child. School fees and private schools and clothes and all the other things that you have to do in order to give them the best education and best life is fine, all makes sense. But genuinely, what a child needs from a parent, and a boy from his dad, is time together. And I kind of learned that a bit more from doing this project myself.
You mentioned that this has resonated a lot with parents, and I think that's definitely true. Do you think that kids should also be watching it? Like, can they get the same kind of thing from it, or there's a certain understanding you have as a parent or later in life that you wouldn't necessarily have that early on?
I feel like it'd be good. I feel like it's good for kids to watch, 100%, because they're in their own bubble, right? They're living a life. They've kind of grown up with this tech around them, the technology and the iPads and the devices, and it's really, I feel like, when they're listening to us drone on about how bad those things can be, or how much time you should be spending, I think sometimes it goes in one ear and out the other, because they're like, I'm so used to this. It's like another arm to me. It's part of my body. Whereas we remember, I mean, most of us parents remember the days without those things. And we can see what it's taken away from a generation. So I feel like it's a good way for kids to see things from the other side and from the parents' perspective, as well as see the damage that something like what happens in adolescence can do to a community, and to the people around it.
I think that's a good point because I feel like that what the ideas that are being spread here are not new and not because of technology, but the fact that they're being spread and are so accessible to just anybody with a phone or with a computer is definitely something that has to do with the internet, and it's just the way that anybody can be on it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's nothing new under the sun. There's always been people spouting stuff or trying to indoctrinate people around the world. That's been happening for years. But now it's just so accessible, and everything is so quick. When I was growing up, I was in my own bubble. I was in the bubble of the local place that I lived, and I had hopes, I had aspirations, but I very rarely saw a beautiful, fast sports car that I could be like jealous of, or you know what I mean, or out of my friend circle in other corners of the world where people were making loads of money or wearing flashy clothes or whatever. You really had to dig deep to find those things. So your level of attention to where you are, what you're doing, and the path that you're on is much more concentrated. Whereas now, I think for kids, that it's so worldwide, it's so global, the information that they can take in, that they want more, and I think what comes with that is more rejection, more not being able to get something, and then them trying to find more ways of trying to find that thing. And I think that's what you see in adolescence, and that's what you're seeing in everyday life now.
You agree with everything that, Luke does over the course of the investigation?
Um, yeah, I think so. I think he is like, as far as cops go, he's probably the most play it by the book sort of guy that you're going to find. He wants to make sure everything's done right. He's obviously thinking ahead about the court case and evidence being messed up, and just wanting to do things the right way. I guess towards the end of episode 2, he loses his rag a bit. I feel like that's more because the little kid makes him run more than anything else, and he kind of loses his breath. But it does get frustrating. I guess in the pursuit of trying to find justice, in the pursuit of trying to find answers that are kind of vital answers, everyone gets a bit erratic.
Obviously, with a limited series that's as popular as this, there's a desire for more. People say, what can we do to continue the story? Do you believe that if there was more to come for this show, there's a role for you in it, or do you feel like you've explored enough of this character?
I would happily do more, but I do feel that this kind of show has run its course. I feel like because it's such a different show, because there are no answers to this. There's no solution. There's no real answers, or if there are answers, there's 1,000 answers. There's no one true answer to it, and I feel like for some people that was hard to deal with. It was hard to have a show that really just kind of shows you a real slice of life without concluding anything at the end of it. We're all so used to conclusions and solutions and stuff. So I feel like it's run its course and done what it's done so well because it's the way it is. But I do think there's room for other stories in a similar vein and to be filmed in a similar style. 100%.
Well, I ask everyone I speak to, what are you watching right now? What's really, amazed you on TV recently? And this is often one of the answers, but I'm curious for you, what have you seen recently?
I'm kind of locked away in a real dark room, not watching anything at the moment because I'm editing. But what could I say? I think the most recent thing I've watched is Paradise on Disney, which I thought was amazing. And I'm just about to try and get into the next season of The Last of Us at some point, but I haven't been able to start it yet. So that would be me. I'm into a lot of fantasy and stuff like that. Stuff that helps me to escape from, the realism of the things I do, like Adolescence.
What can you share about the project you're working on right now?
Well, it's a film I shot beginning of this year. It's called Animal. directed by myself and written by Nick Love. And it's a real kind of art sort of piece. It's like set in a prison. It kind of uses a familiar genre in a similar vein of, I don't know, like Lahane or films that you may have seen like that in the past, but with a beautiful twist. It's a love story set in prison, and I hope I hope people like it. It's a new tale in a world that we're quite familiar with.
Fantastic. Well, I wish you plenty of luck with that, and I thank you for taking some time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Abe. Cheers.